Hello, everyone, and welcome to a on-the-spot episode of Brain Flakes. This is Gabe. I'm actually currently sitting with my wife in our quaint little home, our nice little apartment, and we were talking about something that's obviously a big issue right now, and we thought maybe we could record it and give our measly little opinions out into the internet ether. Say hi to the masses.
Hello.
That's my wife's beautiful voice. All right, so here we go. We're going to talk about it with no, and I want to say it right off the bat, with absolutely no, not knowledge. I don't want to say knowledge. We have knowledge of things. We're human beings. That's what this show has been built on. Is that we're
No
human beings
facts.
with thoughts and opinions, and we're young, so listen to us. Yeah, so with everything going on, I think the biggest one, let me set this thing down so the audio is not inconsistent. But, we got the whole Harvey Weinstein thing happening, and that is a big example of sexual assault in the Hollywood industry. And there's not a single person on the planet that thinks that this is okay. Or no, that's a totally ridiculous statement. I'm sure there's plenty of people that think it's okay.
The people who are doing
The
it.
people who are doing it, yeah, right? And the people in other countries. But here in America, this guy is being nailed to the most insane cross. You know, he's totally lost his company. He's lost everything. And now we even have, I don't even think I've told you this yet, but we have Kevin Spacey. Now he's on a cross because what he did, somebody came out against him and said that this is a male, when he was 14 years old, that 26-year-old Kevin Spacey drunkenly forced himself on him. So what's interesting about what's going on is Kevin Spacey saying, okay, look, I guess I gotta say it, I'm gay, guys. I've been gay this whole time. I'm gay. I'm a gay man. And everybody's like, oh, but wait a minute. You sexually assaulted that 14-year-old boy. Why are you choosing to come out right now? You know, and these are all things that are happening right now, and currently my wife is looking up this whole Kevin Spacey thing. I can't believe it either.
I was just looking up who he is because I don't remember celebrity names.
Right.
I know who he is.
It trips me out. I mean, hey, more power to him. I mean, if that's his lifestyle, that's okay. But it's causing a big deal because of what he did in his younger years, and that person was definitely underage, and that's not okay. So these are two things in the Hollywood industry that are right in the forefront of news, and both have to do with sexual assault, and both are being handled, in my opinion, correctly, and that there's no connotation of it being okay. So with that said, I personally have gotten into a bit of a Facebook tete-a-tete. Is that what the word is? A little bit of a back and forth. And when I say back and forth, I mean the ball was lobbed towards me, and then I hit it back, and it just kind of bounced away and disappeared and fell into the grass, and no one bothered to go get it. So I'm arguing with myself here. But
I personally feel like nobody wanted to deal with you.
Nobody wanted to deal with me. And, of course, I was the male on a female chat thread going on. And so, obviously, my words don't matter. All my words are grunts and that was all I was saying pretty much the whole time. And mix that in with rape culture and you shouldn't dress like that. That's probably what they thought I said. But honestly, I think where I stand with it, and I'm going to give my wife the floor in a minute to kind of explain, because obviously, I think we have a very equal relationship and marriage, and her opinion counts. I actually think more than my own.
I agree.
She has definitely much more structure going on in that brain of hers than mine. And okay, so here's my thing. I'm thinking, well, should I reference the video that we saw? Should I go into that, or should I just go into an opinion?
You might as well.
Might as well? Okay.
I don't know.
Sorry, guys.
Do you know what it's called? I can pull it up.
No, don't pull it up. It's okay. Well, I'll vaguely reference it. That's so much more fun and so much more challenging. I guess what it is, and there's plenty of these, but it's a well-produced video on the existence of a thing that is so-called quote-unquote rape culture, and basically that, women feel like the need that now more so than ever do they have to protect themselves from a culture apparently designed by men for them to succeed and for them to be able to do with women whatever they so choose. Like that's something that's being taught and is for some reason only now coming to the forefront and becoming an issue, and for some reason there's a voice to the, coming up saying that the quote unquote rape culture exists. And so again, I'm assuming, and again, there's no knowledge whatsoever, but I'm assuming that that's where they're getting at, is that it's something taught by men to younger men, and saying that this is your world and you can do whatever you want in it, as well as sexually assault what in their mind they would consider a lesser gender. Would that technically be rape culture? My wife, I don't know. Go ahead and talk. I don't want to. I mean, say what you do, whatever you want. This is the longest intro I've ever done. It's 5 minutes long.
You probably let males talk a lot more. No, I feel like rape goes into the same category as like murder. Like someone who rapes is just as messed up, maybe not on the exact same level, but they go into the same category as somebody who's like a murderer or something. And it's like, to just say, oh, it's because it was the way they were raised, like, oh, where was the parent? Like, did the mother teach this little boy that it was okay to just take what he wanted and to rape a woman? It's like, no, like, this person's obviously sick, and like, just like a murderer probably wasn't taught to like kill somebody by his parents when he was little. It's like, no, like, life happens, like, things happen, illnesses happen, like, there's a lot of different things that play into it, and like, it's just a sick person. So, through these comments and through the video and stuff, I just feel like they kept saying that the issue is that these parents and stuff need to start correcting little boys and teaching them in the beginning that rape isn't okay. And it's like, what the hell? Like, I don't think any of these men were ever taught rape was okay. It was something they decided as adults. And that's why, like you mentioned, in the prisons and stuff, it's so frowned upon. Like, that's why it's so not accepted, because it's not something we can look at and say, oh, well, he probably just had a rough childhood, or, oh, maybe he just didn't know better. It's like, no, like, you're an adult and you made a disgusting decision, and we cannot approve of that.
Yeah, and it feels like videos like this are saying, okay, yeah, they'll go up to about that point, but then they'll be like, oh, well, there's an industry that condones that, and like, I can't find any evidence of that whatsoever. I can't see anything in American culture. Now, that's what we're talking about specifically, American culture that condones or has any kind of potentially positive outlook on this type of sexual assault.
Besides 50 Shades of Grey.
That's when you get kind of into the kink of things and yeah, sexual kinks and fetishes. But at the same time, I think we've talked about that before, and you reminded me of a point that I wanted to bring up, or something that I thought of just recently that I think solves the whole thing. So this might be the shortest episode in the world, but because I've solved it. But with that, even within the story, it details like, look, like, you can have your sexual fetishes, you can have these things, but at the same time, you're a hurt person hurting people. Mm-hmm. And that's what the girl ends up realizing, and that's what she tries to get him to realize. Now, I don't know the next few iterations, so the second movie, third movie, wherever they're at now, I have no idea.
I have no clue.
But that concept might change during the books. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. But that was the one, and I didn't enjoy much of that movie, but that was the one thing that I enjoyed, was like, they're not choosing to fetishize this type of behavior. They're choosing to call out and say, hey, look, there's your thing, and then there's things that you're like putting on other people, and both of those sentences sound awkwardly sexual, but there's the thing you do, and then there's the thing you do, and you got to make sure you're not hurting other people while you're doing it, and that it has to be consensual, and it has to be no matter what, and that did come across in that film. Now, here's what I was thinking. Here's how I think I solved it. Now, what is more prevalent, rape or fatherless men, especially in cities where education is low?
Obviously, yeah, I'd say that's a huge core of the issue. I feel like we can keep going backwards and looking at what the real issue is here, and I could even say, yeah, it's an issue of the heart, which of course then I want to go into spiritual warfare. Right. But I do think it has a lot to do with the fact that there's so many, broken homes, and that most men are being raised either by just, single moms, or unfortunately what happens in that too is that when they're raised by a single mom, there are a lot of different men coming in.
Right.
And a lot of these guys who end up raping and stuff, you look back at their history and they were molested or raped themselves.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword, I guess, or a double thing where yes, these men are being raised by single women. Those single women either have, I feel like it falls, I hate to be black and white here, but it either falls on like man hating, like the man left them, and then they have this agenda to hating men, and then that could also translate to the daughters that they have, and so then that for them it's like, oh well, I never loved your father this and that, and he always wanted this out of me, and then all those things kind of get fed to them to where they grow up to thinking like, well, if that's the case, then there's such a thing as rape culture. They're the ones kind of, daughters and sons of broken homes are the ones creating these very hashtaggy things to say, rape culture, and all that stuff. So I think that's a big part of it, and if you think about it too, like I said, the figures on broken homes and fatherless men is way bigger than rape, but at the same time, who's teaching these kids? If it's the patriarchy, if it's the men teaching these other men how to rape and to rape and that it's okay, then where is that? I need to see that data. I need to figure out who is teaching these men that that's okay. Because I remember growing up in my broken home, I did watch movies. I watched movies where men were the hero, and there was always a good guy and a bad guy, and the bad guy did things like rape and pillage and kill and destroy, and obviously the good guys killed, but they killed for benevolent reasons and good reasons, which there is none. There is no reason to kill. Just getting that out there for the kiddies. But, but yeah, they always did the right thing. There was always a clear line between right and wrong, and that in some ways raised me, and that taught me how to be a man. There was a lot of good examples, good and bad examples, not only in my life, but in my opinion, in film, that allowed me to learn how to interact with people and how to interact with women. Now, there are actually I do think there are negative aspects in film on how to treat women, like, it's like when it comes to being like too flirty or too like, kind of, what I mean? It's put off like, oh, this is so romantic. Oh, look, he's pursuing her and this and that. And at times, especially in the older films, it definitely, if you watch it back, it could definitely be a little creepy and a little over the line.
It's just like,
with the whole,
I
really can't stay.
Yeah.
Baby, it's cold outside. Yeah.
Ruin Christmas.
That's a really weird song, and I'm not all about changing or doing any of that stuff. I'm just saying, but listen to that song. It has its connotations. It has its thing, and it does.
But it was presented in a way of like, oh, look how romantic. He's insisting that she stays, and he's offering her a drink. And
and then she says, what's in this drink? She doesn't say, there's a lot of alcohol in this drink. She says, what's in it? No. And that's totally something on a totally other level. But yeah, that's one of those ones that's ruined. But yeah, so I think if we can sit and think and look at the figures on how that plays out between, fatherless men, who's teaching those kids? Who's really perpetuating the rape culture stereotype? Is it kids who actually have their fathers, and these are just a series of bad men all hell bent on creating a what is it called, like almost like a conspiracy theory against women, or is it angry, bitter women teaching their sons and daughters that men are terrible people because they didn't stay and they didn't raise kids?
Okay,
and just saying that they're rapists. I know I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
No. You're on your rant. So here's what I'm mad about. So the video, they said that the core issue was the whole rape culture. I'm glad he tackled that because I wasn't about to. But when women are trying to make their point, but then they end up saying all this other stuff that stirs the pot, and then when you're trying to acknowledge those things, they say no, you missed my point. My point was this. That's basically what the video does. And the whole video was about how women shouldn't have to protect them. Yeah, be walking around being cautious. And they're saying how stupid it is how they had what was that thing on her ring that looked really cool. I wanted that.
It was cool, and I want one too. It's an eye gouger.
Eye gouge, yeah, it was almost
looked
like brass
cat ears.
knuckles, and yeah, it looked like cat ears. I actually really want them.
That's awesome. I'll give it to you. I'll buy you one.
They're saying like, oh, like I have these eye gougers I never got to use, and
yeah, she said I had them for 10 years.
Yeah, and
I've had them. I've held on to them for 10 years.
Yeah, and then they're saying like, oh, I shouldn't have to be scared to go to Starbucks, or I shouldn't have to be scared to go here, like. We're not the issue, like, it's them, and the fact that we should have to take precaution is stupid. I'm sorry, what world do you live in? Like, it's not just the rapists, it's the murderers, it's the psychos, it's being, you don't want to be mugged. Like, if it's not your ass they want, it's your purse. Like, it doesn't matter, like, and that has nothing to do with even being a woman, besides, yes, unfortunately, like, women have been proven, in most cases to be a little bit more weaker than men. There are some women who are definitely strong and kick ass.
Hey, you better watch it, lady. You better watch it, young lady.
I know, I'm treading real thin water here.
No, it's okay.
No, but I mean, like, for the most part, like, there is that thought of being like, oh, it's a woman, I could easily, take her purse and she's going to go cry in a corner, where, like, a man, he might fight me. But I'm just saying, like, what world do you live in that you don't have to be cautious? Like,
right.
That's what started all this, is I was saying, like, that's like me saying, oh, well, when I'm in a mini mart and a suspicious guy comes in and then goes behind the counter and holds a gun, like, that's ridiculous. Why should I have to leave at that point? Like, why do I live in this world where there's robbers? I shouldn't have to live in a world with robbers. Like, come on.
Right,
like,
and that's when I think you had brought up earlier before we started doing this, was that, what are you doing? What are you doing to either, like, help this situation? Because if you're not helping it, you're perpetuating it and you're feeding it. You're making a situation worse by not. So it's like, if there was a woman out there who dealt with sexual assault and she thought, I don't ever want somebody to go through that, and she became a cop, or she became some kind of way that she can help, or even like maybe a nonprofit or whatever to help women deal with that and sex trafficking and all that stuff. And, I know plenty of those women. I've had those women in my life that have been, all about doing something about that. And even especially those women, and that's what's crazy, those women don't point the finger necessarily and say this one thing is the problem.
Right.
People that are actually sitting there doing the footwork, doing the groundwork, and actually seeing the victims of these crimes, they're not pointing fingers.
Well,
they're not burning one particular thing to the cross and saying this is what exists, this is rape culture. No, they're just upset that people are being evil to one another, and they're doing their part to fix it. And if there is one thing they're pointing at, it is the evil nature of humans in general. Because there are female traffickers. There are teams. There are teams of women that get other women and, like, befriend them, and then the man comes in, and there's an entire system to it.
Yeah, I feel like sex trafficking is a really good example of a way to see, quote unquote, rape culture, because unfortunately the way it's painted is, oh, men rape women and women deserve better. But it's so much more of a web than that. And if you look at sex trafficking, first of all, it's not just girls who get sex trafficked, it's boys too, young boys around 13. There's plenty of boys who get, trafficked as well as the girls. It's not just a girl thing. And then two, it's not the pimp, the trafficker isn't always a guy. It could be a woman as well. A lot of women are used as the reach out, working to bring that child in. And when you look at how these kids got sex trafficked, a lot of times it's their own parents who sold them.
Right.
And that sounds foreign. Sounds like a foreign country, but it happens here in America.
Absolutely.
Where parents sell their children into sex trafficking.
Right.
It's a web. Everyone's involved. It's just a matter of who is sick enough to do it.
Right.
Man or woman.
And that's a beautiful and amazing point. You're absolutely right. And honestly, to add to that, like, I mean, both are disgusting, but what's more disgusting, and I'm saying this because what I think I'm going to say is probably the most disgusting, but
Sure
what's
it will be.
what's more disgusting? You know, the man, like, obviously a man can impose and just really through force of will and nature can enact something on somebody, you know, enact their will on someone, and that person has no, you know, option, and just that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. But when in my mind, you know, what's equally as terrible, if not more so, is the fact that there are those out there, females out there that like you're saying, market or you know, kind of demonize the nurturing nature. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they take you in, they completely twist what it is that's supposed to be so pure and good about them as a woman, and and sexualize it and mess it up and twist it and to make it to where that kid falls prey to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, come here, I'll take care of you. You know, doing that thing, like, that's terrifying. You know,
Yeah.
that's incredibly there are female predators out there
100%.
that do that very thing. You know, and that's, I think that's obviously a little bit more manipulative, and it takes brain work to do that. You know, to be an animal and to just kind of jump on something and have your way
And
is so
unfortunately, women
animalistic.
have it.
And women have that too, but I think, but yeah, women have that in their mind to be able to not only get that, but there's a way to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a journey to it. Like I said, there's brain work. There's manipulation, and to get that young child or to get that person into a zone, and for what? For money? For, you know, who knows what they do with the, you know, for,
Yeah.
or literally for the kick of it, because there are people out there that are doing that. So obviously this is getting darker and darker, but I think the point that we want to have made is that, like, evil is evil, monsters are monsters, people are people, and there is really just at this point, and you gotta. People can comment, people leave messages. They're probably gonna. I need facts and figures. I need something to tell me, you know, what the actual facts are on this so-called thing called rape culture. I think rape is a disgusting and terrible crime, and it breaks my heart just as much as most other crimes break my heart. You know, against people and stuff, and even people against animals. That kills me too. That
There's a
hurts.
lot of sick things in this
Yeah.
world.
Now, when people start raping animals, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Oh,
I don't know
Lord.
what the hell I'm gonna do. But but again, and this is also something, you know, that is prevalent. And if you're gonna do it somewhere, you gotta go all the way to the top. If you're really gonna cause an issue, you really gotta go to where this is potentially a real thing. And that's kind of, I took a little dig at the end of the comment saying, if you're gonna do anything and you're gonna call anything rape culture, blame the Catholic Church. That is something that has from its inception. And we're not talking about Judeo-Christianity from way back when it has its issues, but we're talking about Catholicism and a lot of its issues with you know, the choir boys and all that stuff. They have repeatedly, you know, raped and sexually assaulted children for many years. And if you're gonna kick out Harvey Weinstein, if you're gonna get mad at Woody Allen, and if you're gonna get mad at Bill Cosby and all these people that are like in the public eye, I think you really gotta take a step back and say, okay, well, what's the core issue? Okay, it's that. Now we gotta take care of that on a way bigger scale, because I don't know. I think there are bigger fish to fry.
I'd also like to say too, like, we're coming from a place of specifically talking about like full blown rape, like
Mm-hmm.
attacks,
Mm-hmm.
not just because there's this whole other side of rape too, where now there's all this stuff about the consent. And where, like, I could go, I mean, not anymore, but let's say in a different world. Like, I went to a party, I was drinking, I'm flirting with a guy, I'm all up on him all night. But then, like, we have sex, and then the next day I can say I didn't consent. I was
Right.
drunk.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I don't even want to go there with that bullshit because
Yeah.
you were responsible for going to the party. You were responsible for drinking. You were responsible for flirting with the guy and getting yourself to a point where you were in a compromising situation. If it was rape, you need to make better decisions because you got yourself there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow, and I know it's going to be a tough pill to swallow for most, but yeah, it is. It's taking responsibility for the decisions that you made. It's like you got in a, like, for me, it's like I can't, like, you know, jump in a car after having a bunch of drinks and think that it's going to be okay, because I'm me or whatever. You know,
Right.
that has nothing to do with anything. You know, cosmically, it has nothing to do with anything. I'm just another human being who's under the influence and shouldn't be driving a motor vehicle and putting other people in danger. I'm responsible for that, and the law dictates that. Just in the same way the law dictates you from getting, you know, what is it, getting a gun and shooting people. At least it tries. It tries its best to you know, structure that and punish you for doing such a thing. But yeah, you're right. It's just taking responsibility for what's yours, and I think you're right. I like to rant and go off on things, but what the video was specifically referencing was the concept of like defending yourself. And at the end of the day, we all
or the fact
have
that we shouldn't have to.
Yeah, there's no reason women shouldn't have to defend themselves. That just seems crazy to me. It's like no matter what, you're a human being. You need to protect yourself from crazy human beings.
Yeah.
You know, and you need
no
to protect those
what,
you love
like,
and those around you.
You have to wear a seatbelt when you get in the car.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like,
yeah.
I can sit here all day and say, why should I have to wear a seatbelt? If I'm driving carefully, why shouldn't everyone else drive safely? Like, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. And these girls, and this is why I'm so going to get shot for this, but, like, this is why I'm so anti, like, feminist. Because this is the complaints that I hear. They're not realistic. Like, these women are never factual and, like, and realistic. Like, it's always some bullshit. And I'm like, okay, like, I get it. But at the same time, like, can we be realistic here? Like, stop just blaming men for everything and see that this is the world we live in. Right. And my bottom line, too, is this whole thing with rape culture. Like, I'm not saying obviously it doesn't exist. Obviously, it totally does. But can we just look at a foreign country for 2 seconds? Like, right. We are complaining because we walk around with pepper spray, but there's women in Africa who put traps in their vagina. Yeah. So if a guy rapes them in the middle of the night, the trap latches onto their penis. Like, and they all it does is give them enough time to get away. Right. And well, the guy does have to go. The only way he can remove it off is by going to the hospital. Right,
and then that put, you know, it's two things. He's like, okay, now you're a known rapist and you have a mutilated penis, so you can't use it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's an amazing device. It's terrible that it has to be used, but that's a great device. But you're right. It's a different country where that still is technically, if we're looking at it for what you just said, even in that culture, it's not approved of. It happens way more frequently.
Yeah.
It's way more of a bigger crime in that country. But still, it is not considered a good thing to do. They have, you know, created a way to let it stop happening. So where's the people saying go ahead and do that? Who are those people? And where are they coming from? And how are they so prevalent over what your opinions are and what you believe? Oh yeah, the perpetuators of rape culture. Who are they?
Yeah.
I can't wait to see these people. I need to see these people. You know? But that was a great point. That was a really great point. I guess we could wrap it up. I know you're not going to, by the way, you're not going to get shot for the feminist thing. This is my show, so I probably am going to get shot for the rape culture thing. Or sorry, for the feminist thing. I'm just stuck. Rape culture. I keep saying that word. I can't stop saying it. I'm going to call this episode Rape Culture, Rape Culture, Rape Culture.
I'd like to just state in my defense that I believe in equality, but that means I don't put myself above men, and I don't expect men to put themselves above me. So I'm not feminist, and I'm not anti-men. I'm for humanity.
You're a humanist.
I'm a humanist.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I've told you that for years, that's kind of where I land on things. Yeah, it's like, you know, even when it comes to women having jobs and positions, that if you're qualified for it and you can do it, then do it.
1,000%.
You know, and don't blame anything on anyone else. Like because you're not where you're at, it's 100% your responsibility to try your absolute best, and as a person, you know, a person's a person.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you know, I'm not too far to one side. Then the second you get too far to one side, there's something a little wrong. But the thing I do feel that I'm all in and I can feel safe being all in is that I'm a humanist, and that I care for every single, you know, person equally, and I want the best life for them, and I want to do the best that I can to help that. But that a part of that includes getting you to think correctly, getting you to or at least if I can get you, at least get the conversation going, at least get the thought patterns moving to a place where, you know, you're starting to think a little bit more objectively, so that the thoughts roll off of your mind like flakes off of the brain.
Oh my gosh.
I've been waiting to use that. I've been trying to figure out how to do it, and I finally got it.
Credit.
I finally got it. But yeah, on that note, thank you for joining me on this episode. More to come, and I think we had a lot of good talking points, and I think we have great conversation and even better conversation when it's recorded. Let's see if we can get ourselves to exactly 30 minutes on the nose. We're at 29:46. Any last words? 10 seconds.
Thanks for having me on.
Cool. I was glad to have you. I love you, and see you next time.
This is Brain Flakes.
This is Brain Flakes. Brain Flakes.